It's been 30 years since the Queen of British Pop, ALISON MOYET, last toured Australia. That 1987 tour came on the back of her early success with pop duo Yazoo. It's been a long time between visits. How come?
Oh, yeah, it's been far too long. I don't even understand how this much time has gone on. All I know is that the last time I played out there, it wasn't a happy experience, and not because of the country, but because the band was all miserable. it just wasn't a happy time, and I really feel like I've nailed it now, and I'm really enjoying live work. So I'm making up for lost time, and it could very possibly be the only time that it ever happens, but at least it's going to happen at least once.
You're quite incredible to have such longevity in your career. I mean, the music I've heard on this new album, Other, is an absolute world away from your earlier, perhaps more famous records. What would you say is different about your work today?
Well, I just think you just get a different voice when you get older, and I'm not even talking about the sonic voice. I'm talking about the things that you want to talk about. When you're young, you're sort of caught up in the histrionic of a romantic narrative, and when you get older, you become an old cynic, or you become an observer, And of course, for Australia, that hasn't really been exposed to my midway work, it's going to seem like a shocking jump. But obviously, in England, and in Europe, I've been working consistently. And funny enough, I mean, I'm getting, in the last 10 years, I've got the best reviews of my career, both live and for my album. So it's been a learning curve, and it's like, it's not mainstream pop. It's more literal than that, I think.
I like the expression that you use, that you become the observer, because I think as we've all grown older, we've learnt to become the observer to ourselves and not get caught up in the whole chatter of our mind. So what are the lyrics that are coming out of you? What's the perspective that you're writing about and singing about that's changed with age?
Well, I'm talking about a human condition, really. I mean, just the empathy, just the smallnesses that we feel, just the human condition, and I think I mean, this album is so poetic, so poetry based that I would do it disservice if I was to sort of like just pick anything out, and try and deconstruct it. I think you either have to be interested to listen or you're not going to listen. That's the way it's going to be, really. Well,
and it is a very interesting album to listen to. From the tracks that I've heard, each one are so distinct from the next, and it's been described as haunting and rich and bursting with clarity, vitality, and freshness. You must be pretty chuffed that it's getting such great reviews.
I'm really happy because it's like I'm 56. The idea that I still have a career making new music is it's not a common one. It doesn't happen for many people. So I feel completely blessed by that. And there's no part of me that wants to sort of like re-enter this world of celebrity and be a mainstream act. That's not of interest to me. I'm only interested in finding out what I can do and what I can learn and how I can communicate. And in that sense, it's just gotten better for me. It feels so much better for me than it ever did when I was just like a mainstream pop act.
Yeah, I find that incredibly fascinating. I read that you say you're far removed from the record company treadmill and the spotlight. Your home is in a suburban street in Brighton in the UK, where you live in a relatively normal life, having downsized from your country home and all its trappings a few years ago. Why?
Because it's miserable, it's isolated. I never aspired to leave where I came from, to leave the people I came from. I'm a cheap date. I don't care for things. I don't want things. I just want to interact with other people and other people that aren't flipping just doing the same job as me. I want to live in the real world, and I think art is best informed by the real world. And so consequently, I'm in this brilliant place where, like I say, I earn my living by singing. I go to college during the daytime. I study sculpture. My friends are normal people in normal walks of life, and who might come and support me as a mate, but they're not fans. Do you know what I mean? It's just a real life with real people, and that's what I want. That's always what I wanted.
Yeah, so fair to say that you never revelled in the celebrity at all?
I was no good at it. It's like, and I don't mean to be selfish because I mean I'm perfectly aware that having had that big successful bout in my life meant that I was in a position where I could say no, so that I can say no. I'm not going to do 80s reunion tours. I'm not going to go on this, I'm not going to just go on that treadmill of going out there only ever singing the songs that I did 35 years ago. Now my set, I work with an electronic band, So it's a lot of synthesizer music, which means that I do go back to Yazoo. I do hits. I don't do all the hits. I don't do Invisible, for example, because I can't stand the fact it's so whiny. But I mean, every song that I sing, I'm completely engaged with. There's no. I don't tread water. I don't dial it in. Every gig I do is the most important gig that I'm going to do, and I feel. It's a flipping lucky place to be, that, isn't it? Isn't it lucky to just to be able to be able to flipping sing and to feel it?
Yeah, I agree. You're 100% lucky for sure. But I read also, I mean, it seems weird to me that on one hand you won't sing Invisible because you say it sounds whiny, but I read that you quote a quote about yourself saying that as a middle-aged invisible woman who can decipher the world around her without distraction or judgment. So you feel invisible at 56, and you like it.
I love it. The thing is I've always been a bit of a freak. I mean, it's like ever since I was a small child, being brought up in this French peasant family in a new town where we were built to pull carts and to ruck and to, and there was this gentleness that I just didn't understand around me. I never quite fitted in, and I've always been remarkable. And, I have to keep reiterating that's not me complimenting myself. People have always had something to say about me. I've always been watched. And consequently, I spent far too much time in my own head analysing myself to death, And
I think we've all done
that. And I've got it. Now I've got myself pretty nailed. And the very fact that, there used to be a place, I'd be agoraphobic. I didn't leave the house for years. All this kind of business, Yeah. To suddenly now I live by the seaside. I go everywhere I want to go on my own with a rucksack on my back. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm. There's a freedom. It's brilliant. Life is brilliant. I've got my family and I've got my town and I've got my work. What more can you want than that?
So if you were to sing Invisible, it would come from a whole different place inside you.
Well, I couldn't. Well, it's. As I've gotten older, I've become more entrenched in my Europeanness, and so, I mean, there's even a language Invisible that uses so much of an American language, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I'm not an American, so why would I be faking it, So I can't find a reason why I would sing with Americanisms, and that song is dripping in Americanisms. And beyond that, there's this kind of whining, this man's done you wrong, and you're going to whine about it. It's like, no, get over it. Get over it, live on your own. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to either pass on that message or pretend to anybody that it's a message that resonates with me. It isn't.
Yeah, I love the attitude. You've been compared to Adele. How do you find that?
Well, the first time I saw her, I knew that I'd be compared to Adele because we were both fat. That's the first thing that I thought.
Right.
And but obviously there's more to it than that. The fact smashes that we both sing torch songs in this quite a static, self-contained way. I think that's where the similarities end. Beyond that, Adele, obviously, I mean, has has overshadowed my career by a ridiculous amount. But she's also so very much better turned out than me. It's a different culture. When I started, I first did Top of the Pops without even thinking how I was going to move my feet to Only You. By the time Adele came to the television, she'd gone through pop school and had been taught how to dress and how to present herself, and so she was much better turned out. She was she is much more of a finished article, and to be honest, I have more punk sensibilities than that, and my show is not glossy. It's not, it can be raucous, it can be irreverent, it can be, I might stop and start, I might talk, I might not talk at all. It's a more I think a more organic approach, a more old style approach, really. Come and see one of my shows, you'll see a lot of material that and then you'll be introduced to a lot of stuff too. So it's if you're someone that likes to know all the songs going to be played, then check out the minutes, check out other and if you've got the back catalogue, then you should be informed.
Well, we're all very excited to see you in Australia. It's been way too long. Alison Moyet, I think you are an incredible human being with a great attitude to life. A lot of other people should share that. And the freshness, the voice you bring is simply awesome.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you so much. I'm genuinely so excited to be coming out there, so I can't wait.